Is it time to build or expand your grain setup? That's what we're talking about. The economics, the demand for storage, increased yields, government grants, new programs, what you can do to have more grain storage on your farm. That's what we're talking about in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
It's XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, cutting your learning curve and improving your farming operation every week. This episode of the Cutting the Curve podcast is brought to you by BASF, creating innovation to help farmers do the biggest job on earth. And now, let's get ready to learn with your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg Cutting the Curve. We got a great one for you. We got Trevor Van Loo and we've got Randy Coffey. They are both with Superior Grain Equipment, and we're talking about the economics and the practicality of your grain system, the expansion that you might need to consider, the updates you might want to do, and can you justify doing that in a lower priced commodity environment? Could make the argument that, yes, you have to do this. We're talking about, I'm recording this right now in July of 2025, USDA and various people within the grain business are saying that we are going to have 190 bushel corn. That's a lot of bushels. You're continuing to climb on your soybean yields, your wheat, you name it. Do you need more grain set up? Randy Coffey started making the point before I pushed the record button, and I said, you should save that for the air. He said, Damian, the demand for storage is tremendous right now. Talk to me.
Yeah, right now, when you take a look at the whole economics of it, Damon, with the yields looking like they're going to be the best we've seen in years coming up. I'm based out of northern Iowa, and from the Corn Belt across, and Trevor will attest to, we've seen some of the best corn out there and soybeans I've seen in a long time. We're hoping that we have a continue through the growing season through August, and the yields turn out well. We don't get in any major weather conditions that affect those yields, but we're just seeing a demand for storage because of that, and we're getting a lot of input from our dealers and from our direct sell business that they're going to need storage for this year. And we've been able to capitalize on that. We've been able to gear our manufacturing up, our purchasing of steel. We've done all of this on a timely basis, and it has appeared that it's working out very well for us. Our goals have been met and are close to being met for 2025, and we're looking at potentially exceeding those goals, which, and from the past 3 or 4 years, we've been pushing ahead and making those commitments to our dealers and to our end users and to our customers, and it's worked out very well for everyone. Go ahead.
Well, I gotta say that, yeah, things look. I mean, this cornfield behind my house. I drove around last night with my dog on my golf cart, and I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, this stuff's just amazing. Stuff looks good in a lot of parts of the country. Right. And I know there's someone listening to this that says, boy, not where I am. I get it. We know how this works. There's always some places that are better than others. But in general, the trade clearly believes there's going to be a massive amount of bushels.
Correct.
And the thing is, that's why you can make the point, you and Trevor can make the point, yep, you're going to need more. You're going to need more storage.
Yes.
But along with those huge yields come depressed commodity prices because the whole world has lots of stuff. And how the hell am I going to go and spend a bunch of money with a new grain setup or an expansion of my grain setup or a modernization when I've got to figure out how to do this on $4 corn and sub $10 beans and $5.60 wheat?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there are opportunities out there for the farmer. I mean, there are programs, FSA programs, USDA programs that have been around for quite some time. And those have worked out very attractively for a lot of our clientele base. Our dealers have applied those. Some of our direct sell business they've looked at those type of options, and those have actually kind of supplemented the farmer and been able to do the expansion along his facility they'd like to do. Whereas without those programs, it would probably be a little bit difficult for him to do that. So.
Yeah, I want to get into the programs before I do that. All right. One of the economic cases, Trevor, you made before we pushed record on this episode was it's not just about the cost and then what you're getting for your commodity prices. There are gains of efficiencies. So talk to me about gains of efficiencies that if I'm a farmer and I'm looking at my current setup, expanding my setup, modernizing my setup, whatever, the gains of efficiencies that come back in saved time or labor or both?
Absolutely. So one of the main areas that we can look at to save the farmer money, and yes, it's a huge expenditure at the beginning, but as you spread that across the years, is the receiving capabilities and the receiving capacities of the farm. That's a huge area. If we look at just upgrading from a 10-inch spout, which is roughly 5,500 bushel an hour, up to a 12-inch spout, which is roughly 8,000 bushels an hour, you gain roughly 3 minutes per dump time. If we take that even another step farther, we're gaining almost 6 minutes. So as we spread that out and we look at that, that's less man hours that you're having to pay a farmhand. And I know I'm based out of central Illinois. I know there is a huge demand for farmhands that there is simply not the farmhands there to be had. And so with that being said, you're spending more time away from the family, and the help that you are getting is being stretched to the limits. Yeah. And so you keep that in mind, and to retain the people, you have to have a system that's going to flow and work well together. When it comes down to that, then we start talking the economics. If we look at speeding up your grain system, 3 minutes, 6 minutes per load, we're talking a great amount of fuel saved of a truck idling. We're looking at faster fields being picked, less eardrop, in the field because you're getting it out of the field faster. All of these different things. It's a hard one to put an exact number to, but I encourage you to look at it. Look at and pencil it out. What does it take for my truck to dump, my grain cart to dump on time? And am I paying somebody to sit there while they're offloading a truck that's now taking 20 minutes to offload that could take 6 minutes to offload?
It's an interesting deal because there's a lot of it, and I know every farmer will tell you they work 600-hour weeks and all this, and they get a little overdone sometimes. There's a lot of the year that the speed maybe isn't critical, but right. The condition of harvest, if you miss your window by too much, and like you say, then time is truly money. Then it may not be so much in February, but by golly, it is then. Back to the economic part of this. I'm sure there are people that are putting pencil to this. A lot of farmers are putting pencils to this right now, and they're saying, I just can't make this make sense. So what's your answer? I mean, you guys are obviously selling grain stuff. You said you're already booked up through 2025 and starting in 2026 with your demand. But what's the answer out there? I mean, let's admit it. Agriculture people, a lot of times it's a little doom and gloom. They like to go, what's it like? See, I just said that and everybody laughed. That's right.
Well, I think, Damon, a lot of times what we have to do, and we do a lot of custom designing for the clientele base. Yeah. And we try to look at the economics of the systems that we put in, but yet at the same time, we want to make it functional, and we want to make it, as Trevor mentioned, to speed up the capacity. So, everybody's always looking at what's cost per bushel, right? And that's always something I've heard for years and years and years. So we try to design and help the customer take a look at what best fits his scenario and his economic situation to get him the storage and the material handling and the drying that he potentially needs, and yet somehow try and make it economic for him. Because there's a lot of range of things you can do when you're designing systems and putting grain bin projects together that can fit those needs of the particular client and each one of their situations.
I want to go through the money part, and then I want to talk specifically about the system. Mm-hmm. And the mistakes that you see or have made or have corrected, because it's kind of like I was raised on one of those dairy farms that every year there was something new, then there was a feed bin. And then the next year there was an expansion of the freestall barn. The next year, and you look at these places like, who the hell cobbled this together? Well, it was done over 20 years or 30 years. Well, I'm talking about. I think it's the same way with grain systems. You drive by and you're like, why'd they bother trying to connect that 2,500 bushel bin to this Jesus, smash it and take it to the scrapyard like a beer can. Anyway, let's just go ahead and talk about that. Then we'll talk about the money, the expansion or the modernization or the mistakes. Because like I said, I've spent a lot of time in the country, my speaking gigs all over, and I drive by and I'm like, I understand why you did this, but why did you do that? So let's talk about that.
Well, I think a lot of that ties back into experience. the experience that we have as far as design build. I mean, early in our years, we probably did some things that didn't function right or didn't work right, and we better have learned from that scenario. And we can apply some of what we've learned through the past in creating a functional and operational system for the farmer now, because we do know what doesn't work, and we know after so many years where corners have been cut, as you mentioned, and we try to make sure that doesn't happen.
Trevor, what's the biggest mistake you see when it comes to?
I see people throwing high dollar conveyance, as you were saying, to a 2,000 bushel bin. It's a big one, and
it's because because that's the first grain bin Dad built.
Yeah.
And I see sentiment coming into it a lot, and I agree. I understand it. Have somebody take it down and move it to the side out of your grain system and make a picnic shelter out of it. Something along those lines. And I'm not trying to be hard, but sentiment. We can't be doing that if we're going to have a profitable grain system that's going to actually make you money, so that there's another generation, where your kids can go, hey, my parents built this.
Okay, so I heard from Randy cutting corners. I heard from you sentiment. So both of you can expand on that. If I'm being non-emotional, and I'm not, and I'm looking at this, first off, my friend Johnny Varell says biggest mistake, should have made the grain dryer bigger. At some point, you can't just keep doing bigger, but it seems like that's like farm shops. Any tool shed that you build, you should always, after you say, man, I should have made it bigger. Is that the one? Grain dryers are usually undersized because the guy is looking at it, gal, and says, I got to go with what I can afford. And then 3 years later, you say, crap, need more grain drying capacity.
Right. See it all the time. Yeah. And once again, that comes into planning. Get with someone who can help you stage this out. Very rarely do we see someone who's going to walk in with, $5 million able to build the whole grain system and expand it to the stage they need it to be right now. Get with someone who's going to help you and draw it out, expand it out, and look at what you projected acres you're going to be farming, projected yields. It's impressive the amount of yields we're doing right now. I know Randy mentioned it, but Central Illinois looks amazing on corn. Some of the best looking corn I've seen in years. And but just a solid plan and go bigger. Build for 5 years down the road, not right now.
I know Randy's surprised. The guy from Champaign says crops look good. Oh, yeah, it's really hard to have good crops in Central Illinois. You people don't even know. You people don't even know what it's like to have to farm hard. Anyway, mistakes you see, Randy, in your experience, that you think you can save somebody a lot of headache right now? Because I'm sure the skeptic listening to this says, "Well, yeah, but they're in the business of selling this. I've got to make this all make sense." It's not that you're not going to be in business long if you are selling them a system that doesn't pay for itself. So, I mean, I think we got to get past that.
Well, I think we have to get into the economics, like we mentioned, Damian, and the advantage we have with our drying equipment, especially when it comes to drying, is that we have expandability. And you build and design systems for expansion. You build them so that you don't come back and take something out and replace it that someone's paid good money for year before. You want to make sure that whatever you're putting in now is that in the future, we can supplement that and we will add to that. We won't take anything away. And trying to get that sold earlier, sometimes you can provide the good information to the farmer to see what he's gaining by doing this, and yet get him in an economic situation that might fit. He may need more wet holding right now if he can't put the additional costs into the dryer, but we'll design the dryer so it can be expanded in the future. And we've done a good bit of that. A lot of systems we put in, we're looking at material handling equipment, conveying equipment, the leg elevators, concrete design are all being done now for this particular model system we may be putting in. But those items will still apply in the future when we go to expand the facility and grow it larger for the customer base. So, and be able to get it into him from an economic situation right now for him. So, yeah.
Money. By the way, the other one I was going to say, I'm sure that you probably see it, allowing yourself enough room. I know that the other part of this is, there's a chance that 5 years from now you're going to expand, and all of a sudden it's like, Yeah, we ain't got room to get trucks in here. I mean, I would think that that's one that is probably overlooked because you don't think about
Yes.
this could be double the size 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yes, we will do a lot of design work, which will tend to show the future project, what it would look like years from now. And another thing that does for us when we do that, it allows us to look at potential horsepower requirements in the future. So that as we're going in now, we make sure we design a system that the electrical demand will be there for the future. Because going later on and trying to come back and maybe you have to change the transformer or you'll have to add another control panel that can be quite expensive when you plan for it in the future. So it cuts down on the cost as you move forward.
Money. I don't know that you're a complete expert, but it sounds like you probably are because you're the one that's out here talking to these farmers. You talked about USDA programs. You talked about, and I know there's some electrical ones because Kelly Garrett got involved for energy savings, et cetera. So kind of walk me through that. If I'm looking at, I want to expand my grain setup, modernize it in the next year, what do I need to know?
Trevor, you want to run with that or you want me?
Go ahead. I think you're a little more well-versed and I have a pretty good handle. I think it's changing a lot right now as well. And so
we'll sit down. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, we'll sit down and we'll look at the different programs that are out there for the loans. Obviously, there's energy grant programs available for the drying systems, and in some cases, when we're talking about the energy grants, we're talking about the potential possibility of expanding the drying future and what that's going to save the customer long term from an efficiency standpoint. Electrical numbers are out there. You can get was a good electrician. Make sure he understands what you're doing now and what you're doing in the future so that he can supplement that and take care of that and have a room big enough, even from electrical room standpoints, making sure you build enough expansibility to the room so that you can add different types of switchgear and control panels, electrical panels and things like that. So many times I've been out on projects where it's like, oh, we didn't add this in the future. We didn't look at that. And Damien, that goes back to what we're talking about. We go through all this up front with the new potential client and discuss what are you looking at now? What are we looking at in the future? We make sure back, like you were saying earlier too, Damien, about the amount of property that's required for it and that you have all that integrated into the system and you discuss that up front. And it's just going to save money long term for the customer. As far as the, I mentioned earlier, the FSA and the USDA loans, there are loans out there available. We've done several projects with that. It has worked out very well for it. There's a lot of paperwork involved in it. There's a lot of programs that are tied into that we have to make the customer make him aware of as far as payment schedules and how things are done. Because a lot of times some of the programs out there, it's payment at the end of the project. Well, you really can't do that on projects nowadays. It has to be progress site payment application and you have to make the farmer aware of that. He has to discuss those options with the loan programs, even with his banks for bridge loans that he might need during the process of the project before he gets the payment at the end by USDA or FSA.
And then there are some with energy, but I don't think that that's a federal program. I know that I've heard from somebody and one of my guys that something within their own electrical cooperative, maybe that there was a energy efficiency incentive.
Yeah, there are energy efficiency grants, and you're right. It is some through the cooperatives, and some of it is differentiated even from state to state. It's a little different too. It's always a good idea to, if you're looking for something like that, to get someone who's qualified and has the capabilities of writing a good grant for you, because that will make or break it. And they have to have the ability and the background and history to know how to write those grants.
I see. Anything else, Trevor? I'm thinking about modernizing and upgrading my grain setup. What's your last piece of advice or pieces of advice?
Become an expert of your own grain system. We are expected to be experts, and we are experts in the field. I would especially put Randy in that category. But don't just look at your grain system as something I'm handling and using a couple months out of the year. Mm-hmm. Get to know that grain system. Have your timing down. Figure out how long it's going to take. How many hours you could pick at a certain amount of bushel, certain amount of yield to fill your wet bin, and figure out, oh, hey, if I had another 15,000 in wet storage, here's what I could be doing. Become the expert in your grain system. Mm-hmm. Don't rely on someone else. know the numbers and become the expert in your grain system is a big one in yours.
Good point.
Yeah, well, I like it because, farmers, you go to the National Farm Machinery Show or North American Farm, whatever it's called there in Louisville, looking at equipment. They get really excited about it. And to a lesser extent, these grain setups. And I'd say you can change out a tractor with a phone call, and it's in the flatbed will be pulling in here. Your grain setup, you should spend more time on this.
Right.
This is a long-term capital improvement, and it's not as easily changed. So I really like Trevor's point. Really, really dig into this. This is going to be with you for a while. This can't be hauled away on the next flatbed, if the thing doesn't work out.
Well, it's so nice to, after you design a system for now and for the future, that you have that opportunity to come back and supplement that project based on what your design was earlier. And that means a lot when people come back to you because it shows confidence in what you've done for them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. If you want to have the right grain set up, you can look up my friends here at Superior Grain Equipment. You can visit them if you're listening to this before the Farm Progress Show. They're going to be there. In fact, I'm going to be there, and I want you to be there. I'm going to be there with an entire cast. The people from XtremeAg are going to be there, and we're going to put on a panel. We want you to come to this, and I very much encourage you to join. I'm going to have I'm going to have Chad Henderson. I'm going to have Kevin Matthews. I might have one of the other XtremeAg guys. I'll probably have these guys right here, and we're going to be doing a panel at the Farm Progress Show. So please do come and look us up. That's in Decatur, Illinois, at the end of August. We're going to be there on the Wednesday. That would be August 27th. I'm looking at the calendar over there. August 27th. We're going to be there in the afternoon, and so we'd like to see you there. In the meantime, if you want to check out, learn more from the experts, go to superiorBins.com. That's superiorBins.com, and look at all of the stuff they can do for you to help you modernize or upgrade your grain handling system. And remember what our friend Johnny Varell says, you can never have a big enough dryer. Till next time, thanks for being here. That's Randy Coffey, and that's Trevor Van Loo. I'm Damian Mason with XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation. This episode of the Cutting the Curve podcast is brought to you by BASF, creating innovation to help farmers do the biggest job on earth.